Hey everybody, it's Shadowstar and Crystal here for another review of The Flash. This time it's the finale of Season 1, Fast Enough. So, it's definitely an interesting finale. The first thing you'll note about finales in Flash is they are very different from Arrow's finales. Arrow's finales are non-stop action-packed, whereas if you think about it, the Flash finale, I mean, it's still great and all, but it's a lot of sitting down and talking. There's a lot of conversations and debates and whatnot. Again, not saying those are bad scenes by any means, but it's a very different feel, and it's...
Well, this whole episode is just, should we do the dumb idea? Yeah, I want to do the dumb idea. It's the dumbest idea in the friggin' world.
We'll get to that, but yeah, obviously the episode starts with basically Barry finally getting to have a talk with Thawne and talking about everything, and then...
Oh yeah, here's one thing I don't get. I really wish they could explain why they're enemies in the future, because he is born in 136 years from now, whereas Barry's not going to be alive at that point.
That's the one thing that always annoys me too, and even in future episodes we'll talk about this, is they always make allusions to, Thawne's timeline, but we never really get a clear answer. Obviously, I know in the comics there's more answers, but that's a different version.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to know more about what happens in his future. That even ties in with a good deleted scene where Joe talks with Thawne and talks about who might be in his future, because you never really think about what he would be like in his own time with his own people.
Yeah, of course he's got a family.
Well, he said he's got a family because he talks to Eddie about it.
Yeah, he says we're well respected.
But yeah, the whole thing turns out to be that he says, all right, I'm going to go to my future and I'll let you go to your past and change the past, which that's a whole can of worms right there.
No, because if he stops him from killing his mum, then he won't become... Because he said, I'll kill his mum to give him a traumatic event so he won't become the Flash.
So that means, therefore, theoretically, if Barry was to fix the timeline by saving his mother, then that means that he's basically going to return it to the original timeline, which means he's going to create a future where Thawne hates him, goes back in time and tries to kill his mother, and we're stuck in a folding-in loop.
Yeah, so if he stopped him from killing his mum, what happens to the Thawne that's right there trying to kill his mum? What happens to him at that point?
Most likely they fade out of existence, but, well, one day you'll get a better answer to that question.
Yeah.
But, I mean, look, a lot of people... I can understand why people were excited for them to debate this plot, because obviously it's an allusion to one of the biggest Flash plots out there, and don't worry, you'll get it one day.
Yeah.
But this episode is just full of conversations. Not in a bad sense, because everyone gets to have a scene with Wells, and everyone gets to have a scene...
Henry is my favourite, because
yes,
he's just...
I was going to say, that's the first one, and Barry and Henry get to have a conversation, and he's one of the smartest people here.
Yes.
He's basically...
It would change everything.
Exactly, and he understands that as tragedy as it is, everything comes at a price, and you gotta just take it with what it comes, and, it makes you who you are and all that stuff.
Yeah, but the other thing I'm interested in is, so originally Eddie gave up on his relationship with Iris because he saw the newspaper, but what he needs to remember is that the newspaper is from a timeline... Which
is a whole different timeline anyway.
Yes, you see, as we saw in the flashback, he made the particle accelerator early.
Exactly.
And if he hadn't had the particle accelerator ready on that day, Barry and Iris wouldn't have been there for the person to steal her bag.
That Eddie moment does tie in with another great conversation where he has a conversation with Stein.
Yeah.
That's another really good conversation where he talks about the whole concept of coincidences, and, it's a great conversation if you're somebody who believes in, I don't know what to call it, fate or destiny, but it is a fascinating thing. Everyone loves to talk about coincidences of, if this thing didn't happen and that thing didn't happen. And
I know so many things in my life seem like coincidences, but really it's just little events linking stuff to stuff.
To be fair, I suppose that's the only real word you could think of it is coincidence.
Yeah.
That's why I love that Stein conversation so much, and why Stein... I mean, to be fair, Stein's one of my favourite characters. We'll see eventually. But it was nice having him in this episode, because, of course, him and Ronnie stuck around from the last episode.
Yeah.
But...
Ronnie and Caitlin are finally actually married.
Yeah. That's all I'll say about that. Because we can't say too much more, but yeah.
Yeah, looks like they're gonna live happily ever after. Ronnie's gonna stay home with us.
I mean, look, it was a great scene seeing them get married, even though it was a kind of spur of the moment. But, yeah.
She still had the dress.
But, I mean, we did speak about it when Eddie and Stein and he had that conversation with Iris about how he met her. But if you think about it, Iris was only there because Barry said, let's go see the particle accelerator. So Eddie only met and fell in love with Iris because Barry was already in love with Iris and wanted to hang out with her. So, if Barry didn't love Iris, none of this would have happened. And it wouldn't have happened anyway without the particle accelerator being opened way earlier than expected.
Yeah.
But
surely Eddie would have still became Joe's partner once Clyde Martin killed the first guy.
True, that would have happened without an accelerator.
So she still would have met Eddie when she goes to visit her dad at work.
True, but obviously it wouldn't have happened. But
I guess they wouldn't have bonded if they hadn't gone for a cup of coffee to thank him for covering Joe's shifts because Barry was in a coma.
Plus, she would have spent more time with Barry. So, you've got all that. But, okay, so we have all the conversation. Eventually, they decide to do it. But, of course, it's not that simple. A, if he doesn't run fast enough, he'll die. B, if he does run fast enough and does it, there's a chance a wormhole will open up and kill everyone.
With all these stupid conditions, why did they think it's a good idea?
That's the crazy thing. He was already debating it as it is. These should have been incentives to say, hey, this idea is even more stupid.
I know, you're not losing anything.
Exactly. You've already learned to live with it as it is. Although I suppose that's a message that the story will learn in Season 2 is Barry really hasn't learned to live with it. And as I'll get to in a certain later season, I'm going to explain that one day half the problems in this show could be solved if Barry just got better psychological help. We'll get into that, especially in Season 3.
Oh, yeah.
But that's for another season. But, alright, so he goes and does it, and we have the climactic scene, and that's when we get a scene that I'm going to talk about now. Okay, so Barry goes, and he decides not to save him, but he still gets a conversation with his mother. This is a scene that everyone else loves, but I just don't care for.
One thing I don't get. Most people were telling him not to, but Barry's the one who was so dead set, ready to save his mother, so then what changed his mind?
He hesitated and it happened. Plus, the other Barry kind of said don't do it, which probably gave him enough hesitation. And then as soon as he heard the stab, that's it.
Yeah.
But either way, that's a scene which other people find to be a huge, emotional scene.
Well, yeah, no one wants to stand over their dying mother.
There's plenty of reactions of people crying over that scene, and there are plenty of Arrowverse episodes which will make me cry or at least get emotional. But this is not one of them.
Yeah, that's the thing is, maybe they were crying because they felt strong empathy for Barry, but we cry watching TV if we have felt a bond with the character. We barely know Nora.
Well, that's the thing. That's my point, though, because
we haven't spent much time with her.
Exactly. My emotions are never based on empathy because I can't relate to almost any of these characters. And the characters I have gotten upset over are not characters I relate to or anything. It's just great acting in good scenes. And that's not to say there wasn't good acting with Nora and Barry. It's still a nice scene. But I just don't get why it makes plenty of reactors or directors and people just cry their bloody hearts out. And I'll give this rant again when we get to another episode in Season 2, which has a kind of similar scene, which makes people upset. Well, not upset, but emotional.
Yeah.
But enough about that. Before he actually goes to the future, we get quite a few things to talk about. First off, when he runs through the future, he sees things. As Thorne says, you're seeing the Speed Force, you're seeing the future. In those things, you can see brief flashes of scenes that fly past him. Now, if you're good at freeze framing or just quick at noticing things, you'll see what these are. First off, we see what looks like Caitlin with white hair. That's all I'll say
Yeah.
about that, but I just thought I'd draw attention to it. Next,
Fans of the comics might be able to recognize
yeah,
it.
all these things, or at least most of them, would be exciting to fans of the comics of ideas for future storylines. And all of them, to some degree, even if they're not exactly one-for-one accuracy, do happen. We also see a scene of Barry in jail. You can clearly see he's in a prison uniform talking on the phone.
Yes, he's the one in the uniform. Then we see
We see Snart, Ray Palmer in the Atom suit, and Sarah Lance in a completely different
yes,
outfit.
she's alive and wearing an outfit we've never seen before at this point.
Now, of course, if you're not living under a rock, you probably understand what that scene is referencing. But if this is your first time and you freeze framed, that must be confusing as hell. Although, okay, it depends when that was your first time. If it was your first time recently and you've not paid attention to anything, well done for you for staying spoiler free, and that must be a confusing scene. But if it was your first time when it aired, there was a trailer for a certain something which that is footage from.
Ah, yeah.
And of course, the last thing we see is a statue of the Flash, which is nothing too special, but again, another allusion to a storyline.
Yeah.
But speaking of future references, when Thorne has, I keep trying to remind myself not to say Wells, when Thorne finally has a time machine, he mentions that the first person to build the machine
Rip Hunter.
was Rip Hunter, another name to hold on to in your mind. But there's even more things to hold on to in your mind. As soon as the breach or wormhole or whatever you want to call it opens,
Something falls out.
a sort of silver helmet with wings flies out. Something that'll, again, familiar to people in the comics, and again, keep that in your mind. I love how much this episode throws a lot of future references. And there's more! When the big wormhole at the end opens up, which we'll get to in a minute,
We see a few characters react to it, and
We see-
one character we've never seen before.
we see Snart and a seemingly random girl who is obviously not random, but it's crazy that they brought that actress in for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But still, like I said, it is absolutely crazy how much they reference future
But
plots.
the thing about Rip Hunter confused me because we watch things out of
We'll
order.
get to that more, but yeah.
To me, it doesn't make sense that he built the first time machine. He's a guy that uses a time machine, but why did he? He would. It doesn't seem like he would have built the first
Well,
one.
different timeline. Thorns from a different timeline.
True.
We'll get to that. But okay, we have the big thing. Obviously, like we said, Barry decides not to save his mother, which, you know, he comes back and we get the fight scene that lasts for about 3 seconds with him and Thorn, which, hey, it's fun for 3 seconds, but Flash doesn't excel at fight scenes, at least not in the early seasons.
But then Eddie gets to be the hero by dying.
Yeah. So we get the big emotional moment where Eddie kills himself, and then his body just gets pulled away by Eddie. But yeah, that's an emotional scene. I mean, can't deny it. It's the Eddie's death. I mean, it's basic. It's like I said. I mean, I know I compared this character a lot, and I'm going to do it again. Obviously, it's very similar to Tommy.
Yeah.
It's a character that I've kind of been half and half on. They only last for 1 season. They die in a season, effectively sacrificing themselves in a way. Although, well, Tommy wasn't so much a sacrifice, but he still did it in a heroic way.
He went into the building to save Laurel, though.
Yeah, it was still a heroic thing, but it wasn't a direct sacrifice. He didn't go in thinking, oh shit, I'm gonna die. Whereas, you know, Eddie literally killed himself, which people will always debate, oh, why didn't he just say I'm not gonna have kids? It's, if he'd done that in the past, he would have probably had time because time would have caught up with him. But he needed to do something so instantaneous that there's no debate that he could live on.
Yes. As long as there's a chance for him to reproduce,
Time
then
takes time to harden, and the less certain the timeline is, the longer it'll take to harden. If he just says, I'll get a vasectomy, then it's not going to save him in that split second.
look, earlier on, Wells kidnapped him. As soon as he got out of there,
He could have got a
he
vasectomy.
should have got a vasectomy.
That probably would have saved the day if he'd thought to do it back
Yes,
then.
because that's when he found out that he's Eobard's ancestor. As soon as he got out of there, while everyone else was dealing with Grodd, he should have just got a friggin' vasectomy.
Yeah, if he'd
that
done it back
saves
then,
everything.
maybe that would have saved everything. But in this moment, it was too late for Eddie. The only thing I could also think of is, you know, worst come situation, he was going to die if he does this anyway. But why didn't he just shoot himself in the balls? best come
Yeah, you
situation.
can save the rest of him.
But best come situation, he goes to hospital and get fixed, but he's lost the one thing that will stop Wells at Thorn. But that's it. But worst come situation, he bleeds out and dies, but he was going to kill himself anyway, so. But obviously we get the cliffhanger where there's a giant wormhole sucking everything up and Barry Stott saves the day, or at least tries to save the day. And
We don't see the end of that, but I just hate it because it's not the same as the tornado. There's nothing to stand on.
he just jumps on all the random debris.
Yeah.
But that's the ending. It's a cliffhanger, although if you read the title of the next episode, it's pretty obvious. I mean, obviously he was going to die anyway, duh. But that is the finale of Season 1. Like I said, it's by no means am I saying this is bad, but it is very different from what I love about finales.
Yeah, I'll go as high as 7.5.
I'm going to give it an 8.5. It's still a great finale. You can't deny it.
Yeah, I'll go up to 8.
Yeah. It's still a great finale, but it's not, when we like finales, we really like to be on the edge of our seat, excited, pumped.
Yeah, whereas so much of it was just sitting around talking.
Don't get me wrong, all those conversations were great. They were really good.
Yeah, I know, and some of the deleted scenes were good too. I wish that we got to have the Cisco deleted scene in the episode.
That was all right.
Because that scene would have given more sense to the part where he says, on the other hand, why?
That's the thing. I mean, that's the thing. All the deleted scenes were like, that's the thing. Barry talks to a lot of people, and a lot of people have discussions about if he should do it. The deleted scenes were all just extra people. Like, Cisco got a bit of an extra moment, which is a great one, because Cisco, in the end, is against it, rightly so. And Iris has a bit of a scene, although my favourite scene, like I said, is the one with Joe talking with Thorn about his future and who's in his future and so on.
Yeah, true.
Because that adds a bit more backstory to the Thorn stuff.
Yeah, of course. But like I said, I hate not knowing why they're enemies. Like, how did a guy from 136 years in the future become enemies with a guy living right now?
Yeah, we don't get too much answers. There are a few episodes which give a little bit more tidbits, but nothing's really that good.
Yeah.
But that's not this episode's fault. But
Yeah.
it's, like I said, it's a great finale. I don't love this emotional lovey-dovey stuff with Barry's mother like other people do, but I'll give it credit because I know other people love it, but I don't love it that much.
Yeah.
I have to still appreciate what it is.
Yeah.
But
Overall, it was a good season.
it's a great season. Look, I've always said this. A lot of people say it could be the best season, and I can easily see why they would say that. I honestly don't know what... Unlike with Arrow, where I'm certain it's probably season 2, I really don't know what my favourite Flash season is.
I don't either.
I could honestly say... But I usually toss and say it's either 1 or 2. Those are usually regarded as the best seasons.
Yeah.
That's not to say 3 and 4 are bad. I enjoy 4 as well, but... Yeah, there is just something about the early 2 seasons compared to the rest, It's such a different feel.
Yes.
But, I mean, it's a great season. It's before the show became overwhelmed with 50 billion characters.
Yeah.
It ends on a great cliffhanger, and I love Season 2, so, we've come from one high into another high. I'm excited for Season 2.
Yeah, it'll be pretty good.
Oh, man, I love Season 2 as well. There's a lot of good stuff to set up. I suppose that's the season.
Yeah, that's it.
The first episode of Season 2 is called The Man Who Saved Central City. Spoilers. But
Hang on, which man saved Central City?
actually, that's clever because it actually turns out to be a bit of a double title.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that next episode. With that being said, and the end of a season, we will see you for in the near future for a quiz, as well as my top 5 episodes of the season, which, boy, was it tricky to find them, because it's sort of the opposite. Season 3 of Arrow is tricky to find top 5 because there's not many great episodes. This is the opposite, where there are so many good episodes. A lot of people might look at my list and say, oh, how could you leave out this one or that one? And then sometimes I'm like, oh, I feel bad for leaving this episode out, but there's just so many good episodes.
Yeah.
But I'll cover that in my list. What a big season. What a great season. An interesting finale. Different, but still good for what Flash does.
Yeah.
I suppose that's it.
Yeah.
With that being said, we have finished the first season of Flash. We'll see you next time for more Flash, Arrow, and other things as well.
See you next time, guys.
See you next time.